Hello, this video is part 3 of graphing sine. For this problem we will be graphing it in radians. Part 2 was in degrees. We're going to start by figuring out the amplitude. The amplitude would be in this case the number that multiplies sine, that is in front. There's nothing there, which tells us that the amplitude is equal to 1. We'll put absolute value of 1, giving us 1. Angular speed, that would be the number that multiplies x. That's the one in front, which is pi over 2. C is the number that it gets added to x inside the parentheses. There's nothing there, so we're going to put C as 0. There is no phase shift. Then D is the number that you add or subtract to the sine function. In this case it's -3. This tells us that we move down by 3 units. Remember, negative is down. Okay, next we need to calculate the period. Since we're doing it in radians, period is 2 pi over b. We write down 2 pi over, and then b is pi over 2. We're going to have to simplify this. I'm going to start by making the numerator, that's the number at the top, into a fraction by putting a 1 under it, and then I'll be dividing by pi over 2. So to solve this, we keep the fraction at the top, change the division to a multiplication, and flip the fraction in the denominator. The pi's cancel out. At the top we have 2 times 2 is 4. At the bottom we have 1 times 1 is 1, so the period is 4. We will be using the period to get the last part. So that would be 4. We're going to be dividing the graph into 4 sections, so we have to divide by 4. We always divide by 4, giving us 1. So when we start graphing it, we get 0, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to be going by ones. That would be on the x-axis. For the y-axis, we are also going to be going by 1. Now we are ready to start graphing. We're going to be using the unit circle at the bottom, which is in radians. So we'll start by plugging in the different values on the x-axis into the original function and evaluating if we move up, stay, or go down. Remember that there's a vertical shift of down 3, which means everything is going to move down 3 units. Okay, so let's start by f of 0. The function is sine of pi over 2 times 0. Remember that the 0 gets plugged into the x. And if you look at the function right here at the top, the x is multiplied by pi over 2. And then we subtract 3. So this becomes sine of 0 minus 3 equals, we remember that sine of for any angle is equal to y over r. So when we start looking at the points, first we put the y on the numerator, the r in the denominator. At 0, we're looking at this point right here. Y is equal to 0, r is equal to 1. And then we subtract 3 from it. That would be 0 minus 3, which is equal to -3. So at 0, we go down to -3. We repeat the process. Now we plug in 1, that's the next value on the x-axis. So sine of we multiply the numbers inside the parentheses. We get sine of pi over 2 minus 3 equals, pi over 2 is the number at the top. Remember, that's equivalent to 90 degrees. And that would give us 1 over 1 minus 3. So that's 1 minus 3, equivalent to -2. So at 1, we are at -2. Second point on the graph. Third point would be located at f of 2. Plug in the 2 every time you see an x. So we get sine of the 2's cancel out, and we get sine of pi minus 3. Pi is the point on the left-hand side. So this is equivalent to 0 over 1 minus 3. Looking at the point right here on the left-hand side, y is equal to 0. That's how we get 0. Radius is 1. 0 minus 3 equals -3. The next point would be f of 3, which is sine of pi over 2 times 3 minus 3. That's not an exponent, sorry, that's minus 3. Sine of 3 pi over 2 minus 3. 3 pi over 2 is the point at the bottom, and we get the y is a -1, radius is 1, so -1 over 1 minus 3. -1 minus 3 is -4. Remember that f of 4, it would be a whole turn around the circle. So we get sine of 2 pi minus 3. 2 pi is 0 over 1 minus 3. That gives us -3. We connect the sine function. Remember to use curved lines. This would be 1 the first cycle. The second cycle would be from here all the way to 8. And we have to plug the same points. Remember that both cycles are the same. So when we start at -3, the next point is at -2, back down to -3, then we go down to -4, and we finish at -3, just like we did the first cycle. The second cycle, I'm going to make it a dash line. You don't have to, I'm just making it so that it stands out when you're watching this video. And the amplitude would be the height from the center of the graph to the highest point. So the center is right here. To the highest point, the amplitude is equal to 1, or to the lowest point as well, which would also be equal to 1.